And we're live. I want to educate the masses on the great life that I've had in sales and want you to understand how you can get into sales as well.
My mission is really to help individuals, sales professionals, elevate their game and take it to the next level.
I am all in 100% because we need to change the face of sales.
To show people how they can change how they sell without changing who they are.
What actions do we take to actually see different outcomes? That is the question.
Hi, I'm Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Heidi.
And I'm Joyce. Our great friend Larry is on the road today, but hey, welcome to the Sales View.
And we didn't intentionally keep him off this, by the way, too. I know we put it out there. We're talking about women in sales today. We did not kick him off intentionally.
No, we did not. We did not.
Yeah, he's got
Maybe
some pretty
he left
strong
intentionally.
Maybe he left intentionally. He is on his way to Vegas, so I don't know.
Poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. Yeah.
Well, today we're talking about women in sales. So this is a great conversation. I've seen it circulating all over from different podcasts to shows, on Clubhouse. And so, ladies, I think it's great that we're bringing this topic up. I know I actually talked about it in one of my podcasts, and I asked, where are the women in sales, right? Where are the women in sales? I know I see a lot of us here on LinkedIn, but the stats keep telling me different, right? That we're not in sales. So one thing I learned is that network marketing has a lot of women in network marketing. In the UK, 90% of network marketers are women. And then here in the US, over 72%, I think it was, of network marketers are women. So why are women going to network marketing? Why do you guys think that is?
So I'll jump in if that's okay. But I have a few theories on this. I will say.
Yes.
I think the first one is that we call it network marketing. We don't call it sales. Even though when you're talking, the Mary Kay lady, when you're talking doTERRA, when you're talking kind of these network marketing sales organizations, nobody says the S word. So we're calling it something different. We're trying to appeal to a different crowd. And then my second thought on that too is in these network marketing type of organizations, your customer is also generally a woman, right? So you're selling women to other women.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that, women are relationship oriented in general. And I hate putting, kind of categorizing and putting people in buckets because we are complex human beings. But in general, women trend towards career opportunities that are relationship oriented and where they can problem solve. And so I think having network in the name versus, sales is just, innately women are going to, gravitate towards those kinds of careers. But the facts are that, sales really is relationship building. And so, what can we do, I guess, to change the perception of sales?
That's a big question that we've always been trying to answer as well. What can we do to change the perception of sales? But, what I share a lot, that one of the funniest conversations I had some years ago was someone saying, I'm going to leave sales. I'm just sick of sales. I'm like, oh, so, what are you going to do? What's your game plan? And they said, I'm going into real estate. I'm going to be a real estate agent.
That's sales.
And so you got a point there where you say it's not called sales. So, and we don't want to get too off point with why the big S, word is just not as sexy as we like for it to be. But I'm seeing a trend here as we're talking, because you also have a lot of women that go into real estate. And so now, because they're calling it something else, and a lot of women in recruiting, another huge sales role, right? And then, but I think a big fail in that is that when women go into those roles and they don't understand that they're selling, they're sometimes not as successful. I think the ones who realize that it is a sales job and that you do have to learn some of those basics, that basic sales process, and understand sales, are going to be much more successful no matter what you call it, right? No matter what the title is.
Yeah. And even moving forward, after you do one of those type roles, I think a lot of people don't realize that they've gained a lot of selling skills. And so, maybe the next role, maybe the next opportunity is something that's more traditionally sales, but we maybe don't even think of it because we don't feel like we're selling.
Absolutely. So someone, Shawana Roberts, hey, good morning, ladies. She says, most are B2C as well, as we gravitate to selling to our friends who we have deep relationships with first and rely on them to sell to their friends. So, it makes all the sense in the world because it's a more of a comfort level. You already have influence, right? And when we talk about those things, I know Heidi mentioned this more in talking about those transferable skills that women have. When you talk about influence, think of the influence women have. They've now realized, right, that women have over the buying in the household.
Yeah. We have we have the financial strength. We're making the household decisions, right?
Yes.
And we've earned a seat at the table, right? I think that that's
a whole nother show, Heidi.
I know, right? But I think, I still think, and just to get back, I agree. I think that there is a comfort level in B2C sales and selling to, friends and being able to build relationships versus a B2B selling type of career opportunity, which is still, predominantly male. Not only from the individuals that are in those roles, right, in the B2B sales roles, but the buyer groups that we're selling to. It's changing, slowly but surely. We're making some progress, but we have a huge, I think we have a huge way to go. And we talked earlier, Joyce, about, how we change the culture. I think sales is still, there's this bro culture. And the advertising and recruiting advertising that is being used is still very male oriented in terms of the language, and women just aren't applying. They don't want to be a part of it.
One thing you mentioned, the whole bro thing, and I think that when you think about the sensitivity to inclusion, right? Mm-hmm. I think that women are more apt to include others. If you think about Heidi, Lindsay and I sitting together and talking about what we wanted to see for the show and how we, what our thought process was, we wanted to include some diversity, and we wanted to have a man. We thought about that, right? We wanted to have people from other cultures. I think because of the time zone, maybe we can have them as guest speakers. They didn't want to totally commit, but we want people from other countries, women from other countries, men from other countries, so that we can share the global conversation. And I think just as women, we're more sensitive to inclusion and including others. I think it has to be a woman that came up. I have to throw a baby shower soon. So I think it has to be a woman that came up with that whole, like the men and the women to the baby shower. In my mind, I'm just like, why am I feeding all these people? So
oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I wonder too if part of the reason that a lot of women end up in B2C and network marketing type sales is that, is similarly to what Shawandra is saying, you're selling to your friends. And so does it go back to that confidence versus competence gap that we always talk about? Yeah. If I know who I'm selling to, if it's somebody who I already have an existing relationship with and they can trust me, then does that give me more confidence to go out there and take on those sales roles? I don't know.
Yeah, confidence is such a big factor, and maybe as I think about the B2C versus B2B type sales roles, the products that are being sold in a B2B, in a B2C type of environment are a little bit different as well, right? So, it's whether it's makeup or jewelry or women's clothing, or, there's such a fabulous variety of things that women can sell that they can feel comfortable with versus perhaps, tech sales or pharmaceutical sales where you're selling in a B2B environment that may be a little, for lack of a better word, a little more intimidating.
Intimidating. I was thinking the same word, right?
Yeah.
And it does take a little bit more to be in that space. I've sold in that space. I've been in that oil and gas space. Of course, I'm in Houston, Texas. And so if you're in Houston, Texas, and you haven't sold into oil and gas, I have no idea how you missed it. But, I've sold into a lot of all the big oil and gas companies. And so, I think that confidence, you definitely have to have it. And people, when in B2C, people buy from people they, like they say, they know and trust, right? So maybe they think it's an easier sell, but I think that in a lot of cases, still, I have a friend that's in the mortgage business, and I talked to her just about how she has to set a beat for herself, right? She has to prospect. She has to, have those closing techniques you can't take for granted. You can do a lot of work in real estate and mortgages for people. And if you don't have them, sign off on something to say they're going to work with you, they can change their mind. And a lot of times they change their mind and they go to the person who understands the sales process. Mm-hmm. They go with the person who's doing the trial closes, right? They go with that person who's saying, are you going to move forward? Why would you move forward? Why would this house be for you? Do you have the right financing and things of that nature? And so then that's when there's a gap between, that's when that trust doesn't work for you and when that relationship doesn't work for you, because you still have to understand the sales process.
Yeah, and it is very different in a B2C. I mean, even just the way that it's more a lot of, one-to-many selling. So you may be doing house parties, or you may be doing, it's a little bit different strategy, I think, than a typical B2B sales process. And because of the relationship orientation of the fact is, maybe women tend to be a little more comfortable with that. And it's shorter sales cycles, maybe not in real estate. My husband's in real estate, trust me. I mean, some of them are short, but some of them are, he's worked with some clients for a year. But the B2B sales cycle can be a little bit longer, right? I mean, in my industry, the average is probably easily 6 to 9 months. I've worked some deals for 3-4 years until I've gotten a deal. And so that's a bit of a different mentality, I think. And I don't know, what do you think? Is there a financial stability component to that that's tied to the sales cycle? I mean, I don't know. I'm throwing that out.
I think maybe freedom, right? I mean, in corporate, we do have a lot of flexibility and things, but then when you think about it, we don't, right? Mm-hmm. My calendar certainly doesn't belong to me. I have all these different things. Okay, if you're going to podcast, you schedule this time. If you're going to do a partnership, you schedule this time, what have you. But when you're in sales, your calendar, you can say no to a customer, but it's going to impact you, right?
Yeah.
So you're really working around your calendar. And I think a lot of times in B2C, you have more ownership of your calendar, right? And I think that maybe sometimes, just the hours. I know a lot of people that I know in network marketing, real estate, work a lot in the evenings and weekends. They're kind of free during the day. Some of them, don't work weekends. And so I think maybe that freedom, and there's a little bit more flexibility than what we would get if we're in a corporate environment and having to sign on to a company, having to be at a Monday morning meeting, having that, I used to do my appointments at 8 and 10 when I was driving around Houston, because you need that time. But when I was in the field, if I was traveling to see a customer, to see multiple customers, I may go. And so I just think that maybe that freedom and flexibility in the B2C market.
Yeah. I wanted to challenge something we've been talking about a little bit here, maybe dig a bit deeper. We've been saying women are better at relationships. That's what makes us better at sales. So I work with a lot of men, and similar to Joyce, I mean, my experience has been in B2B industrial space. And I know a lot of men who value relationships, who value building those relationships, who are great at it in sales too. So do we think it's really do we think it's really the relationship building, or do we think it's maybe the collaboration? It's maybe something in behind that, or how women go about building relationships?
Yeah, I think women. I think that's a very good point. I think women build relationships differently, and I think it's a different approach, right? So yeah, I don't think it's to say that men don't have the ability to build relationships, but I don't know. I think when I started in sales so many years ago, and even today, still in male-dominated industries, I felt this very pressure to be more, take a more male-oriented approach, right? A lot of it was, on the golf course and, this whole different culture. And it was inauthentic for me to try to take a more male-oriented approach to relationship building than, and so I kind of stepped back from that and I focused on my own comfort zone in terms of the way that I wanted to collaborate and add value to my customers. I don't know if that makes sense, right, Lindsay, but I think it is different, right?
I think it 100% does. I'd be interested to hear Joyce's side of things, because I went through the same thing, right? I was like the girl copying all the guys, bringing in the donuts, trying to talk about sports, and it just blew up in my face. So right. I had to build a relationship built on the fact that instead of bringing the donuts, I brought the agenda. I came prepared. I did what I said I was going to do. I added value, and that's what my relationships were built on. What do you think, Joyce?
I definitely challenge the part where I think men are great at building relationships, and especially with other men. I think they have, when we talk about the bro code, I think it's a real thing, right? And so I think as the challenge for women in the B2B environment that we've been in is that we also have to sell to men. So how do we become that? I know that I went and, like you said, bought the agenda, had everything together, even planned dinner, right? So that I could ensure that I was there at the dinner table. Mm-hmm. Get to the customer site the next morning. He and my the guy, my co-seller from the overlay company, they had gone out that night. Both of them came in obviously hungover, right? One of them comes in, oh, dude, I brought us breakfast. So even after I planned out the entire day, including dinner, and spent that with them, they went out together and did cigars and drinking and whatever, whatever else, and
whatever else.
But one thing that I haven't tried to do, I haven't tried to be the guy seller, right? I'm fortunate in the point where I started my career in sports. And so I am familiar with sports, and I can talk sports with the best of them. And for some way down the aisle, I just stopped watching sports. And I'll go into a meeting, and I would honestly say, jokingly, but honestly, hey, y'all, I didn't watch the game last night, but I saw the highlights this morning. What do you think about Chris Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I intentionally researched that before I would go into a meeting, depending on where the client was located, to learn a little bit more about their teams. But I know, but at the end of the day, I want to be, I want a client to buy from me because I can solve their business challenge, because they trust me, because, not because I can talk sports, right, with the best of them. I mean, I can, but I don't want to give up my innate sense of femininity and being good, at what I do as a woman. But I want to kind of circle back, Joyce, and Lindsay, on, where the women, right? And I think that, the problem is women aren't applying for these jobs. And maybe because that's bro culture, maybe because it's the way those jobs are advertising. But what are your thoughts around that?
So I have kind of an interesting exercise for us.
Okay.
What are write me kind of the 30-second or less 10-second job description of sales for a woman. I'll go first.
That we need to read as well. Go ahead. You go first.
Okay. So bring yourself into this environment where you get to collaborate with customers. You get to I just had an interruption. My kid just ran in. Okay, that wasn't the job. That was the
Be
dog
part of
interview.
a team,
Great,
right?
great,
Like
Yeah,
it's part of
part
the
of the
team.
thing. Yeah,
Solve business
flexibility.
challenges.
Yeah,
Right.
flexibility. Yeah,
Financial independence.
yeah, yeah. Get to know a variety of companies. Open yourself up to a different variety of spaces. Learn new skills. I mean, all this stuff appeals to me, but
Yeah, have business impact, right?
yeah. But I don't know how much of that actually shows up in a job posting. I think it's all the kind of the typical let's win. You know, you're
Kill
going to be
it.
a
Let's
hunter.
kill it.
Yeah.
Right. I agree. So that job description does look like, to me, it looks like being able to impact change, right? Being able to come in, join an organization or culture, right? I like ads that talk about that talk about their company culture in the beginning and say, come be a part of a great culture, come be a part of a team and collaborate to make the world, the community better. There are some ads like that, and I like those type of ads.
Yeah, I think particularly in the younger generation, and I know Joyce, you and I do a lot of work, working with college students and early college grads, and they're voting with their wallets, right? They're looking at companies that have commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, that are addressing bias in the hiring process and that are talking culture. And are putting their money where, the company is putting their money where their mouth is, right? In terms of making investment, investment in culture. But I think women too, we just need to apply. I talked to so many organizations today that they say, listen, we have, we're trying to get more intentional on hiring women. We really want women, but gosh, we don't have any applicants, right?
Well,
where do I go? Where are the women?
Yeah. Well, another thing, I just think that, I think that women just don't want to at this time. I see a lot of women going into entrepreneurship, like myself, right? I left corporate in 2017 and haven't looked back, right? Now I do want to educate other women on sales and I want to help them get there. I want them to help them understand sales and the great career that I had. But honestly, when I left there, I was, I'd given everything that I could, right? And I was exhausted. And then, being, a woman of color, and in that space and dealing with all the things that I dealt with throughout the years, just from that, because a lot of times these companies, even when they're talking about culture, so see what I do is I look at the company that makes the quote about culture, and then I go to their website, I go to their LinkedIn page, what have you, and they have a lot of pictures, just all white male.
Mm-hmm.
So now your audio and your video aren't matching up.
Yeah, or see the organizations they're donating to. Sometimes there's a big disconnect, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I talk to organizations and then they tell me, oh, well, we're already supporting this group, and they'll naturally just mention another, African-American group or something, which that's not what my business is, right? It is owned by an African-American woman, but that's not the basis of my company. And so lately, my response is, so you're $1 billion business, but you can only support one business of color with a person of color as an owner. You can only support one business owned by an African-American. So a lot of times, especially with this new wave of young people, right? Mm-hmm. They are looking for that, and they're not going to be as tolerant of it because they know that the companies these days aren't loyal to them, so they don't have to be loyal back. And I tell you, when I'm talking to young professionals and coaching young professionals, they're not looking at the retirement plan for a company like we did when we were looking for jobs, Heidi. I don't know about Heidi and I. We were like, oh, we're going to retire with this company like our parents did and all that.
Right. We got our pension plan. Woo!
Yeah. I mean, they're telling me, Joyce, I'm going to go somewhere for 2 years. Where can I spend the next 5 years building my career, my brand? And that's it. So we have some comments. Lindsay, you want to read some of the comments that we have?
Yeah. We Shwanda Roberts, she says here, we as women have to continue pushing other women that sales is a great career. This means going to school career days at schools, speaking to your children and friends, etc. Don't think we do that enough. Great talk show, by the way.
Thank you. I agree with that 100%. I talk about sales to whoever listen. I have a book, Why Sales for College Students. I volunteer with local organizations and I go to career days at school. So I agree with that 100%, Sean. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks for the comments. We've got another one here. We have Sherry Burrell. She says, good morning from Beverly Hills, California. Whoo, Sherry, it's early for you.
It's early for you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. And then Ananda says, making a lasting investment in culture is not just a one-year diversity and inclusion program.
Yeah, that to me, is such a great comment. And it's not only is it not a 1 year, but it's not a 1 month. Just, changing your logo to, to black or to, multicolors does not mean that you have a commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion long term. So I am all about that. That it has to be, a year round. There has to be a budget, and it has to be top down, supported, and companies need to be very intentional about it, and and it needs to be measurable.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like this is a whole. I'm going to put this on our topic list. I'm going to put this on our topic list. No, how do you have a DEI and IND program for sales and make it meaningful? I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
So when you think about, when we go back to our topic, women in sales and where are women in sales, all these things are important to women, and I'm not saying that they're not important to men either, but they're important to women, and women have another dynamic of us, to us. And that's that we birth the generation. Right. And when you give birth, I'm told, I haven't had this experience, but I do feel like I've given birth to a few. This is what my friends say, right? They say, I'm asking for a friend. I'm telling you for a friend. That when you give birth, you have more of a commitment to how you want that person to grow up in the world.
So true.
You guys agree? I mean, you guys are mom. Tell me if I'm wrong.
I think that's absolutely right. I actually worked with a coach before my son was born, and that was a core topic we talked about. It was my business coach, but she was also coaching me on making this transition in my life, becoming a parent. And it was very much, what values do I want to instill? What is my fear that they'll grow up as? So I totally get it.
Yeah, I agree. I raised 3 boys and I want them to be men that values women. I mean, we had a reverse household. My husband was a stay-at-home dad for 15 years. So it was a bit untraditional. And because of sales, I was able to support my family and provide them with great opportunities. And so I feel blessed. And so I do think that, but I agree with you. Sometimes as an entrepreneur running a business, you feel like you've given birth. I'll tell you, with the launch of Girls Who Sell, I think that's almost been harder than giving birth to my boys. But
there's no epidural for entrepreneurship.
There's no epidural. That's the takeaway. There's no epidural for entrepreneurship.
You know what? We need to put that in the chat. There's no.
There's no epidural.
That needs to be in the chat.
Yeah, and I think talking about sales and putting a positive spin on it, and getting younger and younger. I mean, that's the one thing. Even though Girls Who Sell was launched and focusing on college students, similar with Why Sales Network, Joyce. I've been really encouraged to even get younger, right? Even working with high school and junior high school students. In fact, I'm working on a children's book right now for 4th and 5th graders to start to position sales even earlier. So I think Absolutely. It is important.
Absolutely.
And it hasn't been positioned as an intentional career choice.
Well, gosh, ladies, I can't believe we're already at our time. I mean, where does
Wow.
it go, right? I do see we have a couple other comments. Uh-oh. Well,
Yeah,
that's not
I'm
what
not.
she's doing for sales. Great point, Heidi. And then she put no back doors for me. Ananda, that's, works with my team. And the thing about what Ananda's putting on her personal notes is that before we go, is that she's that generation of young women that we're talking about.
Yes.
Right. So, when you talk about corporations really paying attention to what that generation is looking for and how they're going to bring women into the workplace, because if you don't bring women into your workplace, you're going to have a shortage.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a shortage, and you're going to lack, of course, you're going to lack all the things, diversity, you're going to, the creativity, you're going to lack everything. And so they've got to figure it out. They really got to figure out what, as women of all ages, backgrounds and what have you, what we're looking for, what we need from them, and how to get us there. And I love the exercise that, Lindsay had us do about what does that job description look like. That's amazing. Love
A
that.
surprise exercise.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oops.
That's okay.
Wow, I love that. And if we
Love
don't even if we get them into the door, if we don't change the culture once they get there, they're not going to stay.
Yes. Well, we're going to wrap it up. We appreciate you guys who joined us early this morning. We appreciate your feedback. And for those of you who's going to watch it afterwards, because we're going to post it on all the networks, you have been tuned into the Sales View Talk Show. And Lindsay.
So I'm Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Heidi.
And I'm Joyce. You've been tuned into the Sales View.
Thank you.
Hold on, I forgot the cue. Here we go.
What actions do we take to actually see different outcomes? That is the question.
Welcome to the Sales View. Thank you for joining us.